Welcome everyone. Hope everyone has been having a good day and had a good lunch and are ready to rock up some good advanced new features of the AI world where we basically connect cloud with the AI. Right? Today's session is going to be about Azure MCP Server, the new way AI talks to your cloud, i.e. your Azure environments. Going forward. So, disclaimer, right? In a nutshell, what I've been doing here is my own personal and professional opinions, projects. None of them has any relationship with my clients, currently my workspace, EPAM. So everything is my personal experience, professional and personal wise. Sponsors. We do have sponsors for this event. Microsoft, as you guys all know, and Central Logic, which has been a main sponsor of these amazing events. So shout out to the Central Logic team, and thank you for organizing and sponsoring such an event today. Going forward, about myself a bit. So my name is Con Trigut. I'm a lead DevOps cloud AI guy working currently at EPAM Systems, one of the largest IT consultancy firm globally. I'm a multi-cloud DevOps guy. I do have experience on hyperscale, but majorly for the last couple of years, I'm very happy on Microsoft Azure environments. I'm an AI fanboy, right? I love everything about AI, man. As a new gen, AI is my second name, I would say. And I'm a community contributor. As you guys can see here, these are my socials. I'm trying to be very active, as much as active that I can. I do have a YouTube channel. This is the whole reason I was just setting this camera up. So this session will be recorded and published to my YouTube channel. So if you can scan that barcode to connect me on LinkedIn. And agenda. What are we going to do today? We are going to talk about Azure MCP, but before then, we have, I want to explain what it is, right? We're going to do what is the situation, what is the current or before situation before the MCP servers, how is the MCP servers, MCP architecture, if you're interested, MCP versus agent to agent comparison, which I do get a lot of questions about. And finally, the best part I would say is the demo. We're going to do some hands-on. I'm going to show you guys real-world examples, which I was amazed when I was doing. So hopefully you will get the same feeling there. Then we're going to talk about the future AI-driven cloud and DevOps operations, or some other operations that you want to talk about. And we're going to wrap the sessions up with some Q&A. Cool. So before the MCP servers, I want to do the session very interactively. So if you have any questions, feel free. I always ask my audience, the session audience, questions to see what we know, how we know it. My question would be, how many of you guys are aware of what is the MCP servers? A couple of people. Perfect. So it's going to be a good session, hopefully a very beneficial one. Before MCP servers, if you were not aware of MCP servers, the current usage of LLMs. You guys all know about ChatGPT, Cloud, or other versions of LLM models and products that you use on a daily basis, right? But basically, if you want to integrate your tools or certain third-party tools into your LLM to automate some stuff, to make your life easier, how would you do that, right? You gotta interact with their tool APIs, obviously, right? So there's an REST API of the tool, which you need to fetch, you need to interact with and do your automation. You need to integrate that tool in order to have in your LLM. So here in the, I'll actually show it from here. Here in this diagram, we have a user, which is myself, where I'm using GPT-4o model in any of the products out there, right? I am asking, hey, what is the weather like in Toronto today, right? My LLM model, what it does is basically it takes my prompt, it basically converts, transitions it into its own natural language, gets the tools from its database if it has any. If not, it's going to go to some APIs that is integrated with, which is going through the tool execution pipelines in the backbone of these products. And it's going to take a look. Hey, what is this question? The question is, what is the weather? What is the weather like in Toronto today? So it needs some sort of weather API to fetch the data from that specific tool and send the response to, right? So here you can see we have a bunch of APIs. Then it's going to find the weather tool API, parse the response from the LLM model that you sent, transition it, gets the response from the API, parse it again, send it to you, to your product, which is ChatGPT in this case, let's say, and you're gonna see, hey, it's 20 degrees outside in Toronto today. Perfect, right? You don't have to do anything. But what if you wanna have your own tool that you wanna work with in your ChatGPT? How do you do that? You need to manage with APIs, right? The bottleneck of doing this is great. Like scripting, software, like developing some software, integrating tools. That's how we've been doing for ages, right? But what happens if there are any changes in your tools API, right? Or in your automation in this structure, let's say you have a bunch of tools, some of them are updated, some of them are broken, something happens. You need to maintain that every time, consistently maintenance. And you need to make sure your data are coming seamlessly, so your APIs would work with them to give the proper response as possible to the user. There's an ongoing maintenance here, which MCP solves as of today, right? So here, what the hell is this MCP server, right? So this architecture that I've been using, I really like it. Whoever designed it, shout out to them. But I think it makes a lot of sense here. What the hell is it MCP about? Here, we do have a couple components. First, MCP clients. These clients are your products, LLM products that you're using. ChatGPT, Cloud, GitHub Copilot Agent, Cursor, and much more, right? So you want to integrate your tools into these LLM models to faster things up. How to do that is you can think, hopefully it's not going to disconnect my camera, but there is a, what is this? A port that I do have that connects to my computer right now, which I connect my camera, right? If I do have a microphone, I can just insert my microphone in here, which is going to be connected to my computer. Computer is my client. And these are my tools, and the port is my translator, right? So how MCP work is you can think MCP server as this port, which is a bridge between your tools and your MCP clients, which is my laptop as of today, right? But how it works is basically a standardized protocol called MCP, which stands for Model Context Protocol, is designed and which defines how LLMs interact with tools and data, right? If you're interested about this protocol, how it's doing, what it has been doing, like in terms of software side of things, you can either reach out to my friend Alex at back there, or you can just Google it. I'm not going to go into how the protocol was designed, but this is a global standard protocol that is designed to work with everything. Cool? And basically, it separates model logic from tool execution, improving reliability. So instead of you thinking, hey, is my API going to be broken after doing this update or doing this? Is it going to give me a proper response? You don't have that bottleneck here. And basically, it enables your LLMs to discover, understand, and safely use your tools, right? Your own tools. You can develop a bunch of different tools. You can basically create an orchestration tool that includes your GitHub, your Azure DevOps, your other different tools internally, which is in a server. And best works across remote servers, right? So if you can use Gmail, Slack, and local data sources. Here you can see I do have each tool as my MCP server, which I plug them into a model context protocol. So by inserting them into this port, I do have different tools at the same time with very easy integration, which I don't need to manage if I'm not creating that MCP server, right? So Gmail, Slack, Google Calendar, even your local datas, right? Everything. So this is basically inspired by plug and play architecture, which is like connects tools like USB devices instantly. If we understand what the hell is MCP in a nutshell, let's go into a bit more technical details about the architecture. Cool? So this is going to be a bit repetitive, but a bit more in details. You have your MCP client that sits in your AI host, right? Your AI host is your product, ChatGPT, Cloud, Cursor, and much more. Your MCP client standardizes model requests and routes them to appropriate servers. So if my user, if myself ask, hey, what is the weather like in Toronto today? If I do have this certain MCP server, if I do have the weather tool MCP server attached to my LLM detects the question, will only take that question to the certain weather MCP server instead of tingling around and seeing which API to use, which is a direct routing, right? And I do have an MCP server which acts as an adapter, as my adapter here, to tools for your APIs, for your files, or even databases. And it basically decouples model logic from tool execution, cleans separation of concerns, right? So instead of just saying what to use, it directly knows where to go. Servers expose structured capabilities, save, and define actions. So you won't be concerned what is your MCP server will do because you will know what capabilities and feature it has, right? It's written in a way, if you want to write it, you can determine what capabilities. If I develop my weather MCP server, if I tell, if I put only weather related tools, it's only give me those tools, right? If I put some Formula One tools into my weather API, it will be able to do it. It's in your hands or the MCP server that you're using. So you're fine, you're safe there. And it supports both remote APIs and local data sources. Whether it can be some other tool that you want to have, or you can develop your own own tools and your data sources from locally. It enables scalable modular setups, one client, many servers. I do have one adapter here. I can attach tons of servers into my port. And it uses schema-based request response for reliability and traceability. So if you're not a developer, I just wonder, how many of you guys are developer, DevOps, cloud technical guys, like technical folks? Okay. I like, how many are you guys are non-technical, like product manager, scrum master? Okay. And what about the others? I see some hands not raising, right? Maybe CEOs, CTOs, all right, C-level. Cool. So with the MCP, even if you're not technical, you will understand what is going on. Because it's going to give you a schema-based, very clear inputs and outputs, showing you what it is doing. So you don't have to understand the code or the operations going behind it. If we understood the architecture, this is a question that I got a couple times from AI folks regarding MCP versus A2A, which is agent to agent. I wonder how many of you guys are aware of agent to agent workflow, right? So we basically heard about agents, right? AI agents, agentic AI era, where you have your agents that are able to do stuff by themselves without you. You just need to confirm the actions, right? With the agent to agent, you can think this as a team of agents, right? Instead of one agent, you will have multiple agents in a team where they can basically interact with each other and complete a workflow without you touching it, right? So my example would be here, my first agent is my Scrum Master, which takes the request and ask from my stakeholders and creates the tasks for me. My first agent. Second agent will be my developer agent, which takes the task from my Scrum agent, develops the solution or the feature, and ships it. My third is my manager agent, maybe my PRE, SRE, or DevOps agent, which basically takes that new feature that is developed by my developer agent, do its DevOps practices, ships it, and let the Scrum Master agent know, right? You can basically build a team of agents. This is agent-to-agent protocol that you can go with. But with the Model Context Protocol, i.e. MCP, you connect a single AI agent to tools and external systems, right? Instead of me having multiple agents for different tasks, I can have a single agent that does everything. My agent is Scrum Master, developer, and DevOps guy, as well as whatever it can be, because it has capability to have multiple functions and tools in a single way, right? It's ideal for automation, tool use, and data access, focused on AI and tool interaction. And it's basically best for single agent tasks with reliable execution if you want to. So this is the theoretic side of things, which I think we covered in a simple way, where I want to show you guys more about a new feature that is developed by Microsoft Azure team, which is Azure MCP Server, right? So Azure MCP Server is a server that interacts with your Azure environment behind the scenes, where you only need to interact with it in a prompt-based environment, right? Right now it's in public preview. It was published 2 weeks ago. I believe it was 17th of April, last April. It was published 2 weeks ago, where it's in public preview and supports certain amount of resources as of now for experiment. But it supports Azure CLI as well as the Azure Developer CLI, where when it doesn't support the resource directly itself, as it supports the CLI, it will go with the CLI tool and do the operation for you. So you're in good hands. But I'm telling you guys, when it comes into a shape where it supports all the resources in Azure environment, it's going to be crazy. So if you don't mind, let's plug our Azure, or let's plug our MCP server into Azure and see how it works. So what I'm going to do is I want to actually Azure MCP Server GitHub, right? No, this is not the one. We're going to do is it this one? Getting started in a guide for developers, not this one. Should be this one. So, by the way, it's too hot here. I don't know where, but there's an airflow coming. I'm sweating here. Okay, so this is the original block, which I will be adding into my resources, but these are the resources that are supported. Azure Cosmos DB, no SQL database, Azure Storage, Azure Monitor, i.e. Log Analytics, Azure App Configuration, resource groups, and as a tool, you have your Azure CLI and Azure Developer CLI, right? In order to use this, we're going to utilize GitHub Copilot Agent mode. If you guys are not aware of agent mode, I do have a video on that on YouTube. Feel free to check that out. I do have a comprehensive demo. But what I'm going to do here is basically, I want to go to the GitHub repo of this MCP server, which is called Azure MCP, Azure/Azure MCP. Okay. So I'm going to scroll down. It has a comprehensive README file, what it does. Here, it does have some examples that you can use, but I'm going to show you guys how to install it directly in a click of a button, you're going to be able to install this into your VS Code environment, right? So here, installation, one-click installation. You have some options here, which I'm going to touch on VS Code. As soon as I click on it, I'm going to open my Visual Studio Code. Right now, you guys can see. Of course, no problem. Are we good here? So here, when I click, sorry, what? Yeah. Are you guys? Zoom in a bit more. Is it good? Okay, cool. So here, when I open my VS Code, I do have a couple of options, right, for installing. Show configuration, install server, rename, this and that. I'll go with the install server, which is going to open the setting.json file of my VS Code where I declare my MCP server configuration in my VS Code, right? As you can see, this is my VS Code environment configuration file. So here it added this MCP code block automatically, which is running npx, and you have your arguments, which is running directly from the repository, and you have a button here, which I will basically. So here, I'm going to open a new Copilot session. I wonder if anyways, we're gonna deal with later. So here you have a start button, right? Once I click the start button, what it's going to do is it will install 44 tools as of now into my VS Code environment, right? You guys can see there's a toolbox of 72 tools that I have in my VS Code Copilot Agent mode, which is normally like 30-ish. My tools are cached in here, so it's not going to increase, but just to make sure, you will have them increased and added here once you start it, right? All I need to do is click on this start button, and right now my MCP server is running. My Azure MCP server is running in my local, right? And if I click on my toolbox, I do see the Azure tools that I do have from previous stuff. But if I checkbox these, I will see these Azure MCP tools that are coming from the MCP server, right? App configs, Cosmos, and a bunch of other tools that I can do, and you have your descriptions here. So there are a couple scenarios where I want to work with you guys, okay? All you need to do is this. Right now, we do have our MCP server running. So first of all, let's start with some basics, all right? I do have this ready prompts that I tried. The first one is, let's say, please list my subscriptions in Azure, right? When I enter it, my agent is working. GitHub Copilot Agent is working, right? So here it will say, I'll retrieve them. But first, let me do that. Let me do some authorization state for it. Let me authenticate so I can retrieve some information, right? So here it says you do have this account. Let's get some subscriptions. Here, this is new, right? This is MCP server. When I can see this is the tool that is using, and when I expand it, you can see it has the description telling you what is happening, right? If I confirm it by clicking continue, it will basically in the background, it will do Azure CLI or API operations, and we'll get the information, right? So here I do have my subscription list in a matter of seconds. Next, let's do something more. I want to know how many resource groups do I have in Sandbox 3 subscription, right? So instead of me running Azure CLI commands or just bouncing in the subscription or UI, I'll work here. So this is Azure Get Best Practices, is another tool that I use for Azure. You can install this. This is called Azure like it's a VS Code extension for your Copilot, which runs some Azure best practices. First, it's running to make sure we're aligned with the best practices when running the operations. And now it's going to run this tool, which is my subscription list first, to get the subscription information, right? So it found a subscription. Right now, it's going to run this group list tool in there. And it checked it and found 27 resource groups in details and just throwing them out real quick, right? So it also saying, hey, I noticed you have your own personal resource groups called this in these regions. Cool, thanks for letting me know. So if you have my resource group, let's try something saying, hey, I do have a couple of resource groups, fine. List all resources in cons resource group and estimate in monthly cost, right? Like, what is my cost? How much am I spending monthly basis? Because I do have multiple resource groups. Let's see how it works with the FinOps practices by calculating your monthly cost. All right, it's gonna get my best practices. By the way, I'm clicking continue, but there's an option to allow all the time, I believe, which we can try as well. So here it's running my subscription list to get my subscription. And list my groups. And based on the results, I can identify 2 resource groups for me. Now what it's going to do is query those resource groups, right? It's gonna run this, which you can see the input that it's going to send out saying, hey, the argument intention is this, and continue. So right now it's querying the Azure resource group graph to fetch the information. Now it says, let me continue with listing all resources, right? So it's checking the East US and will compile the complete information. It's collected right now. It's giving me what type of resources that I do have and with the tiers that I am using for those, right? So it's separating them based on the region, Canada, Central and East US. And right now it's giving me the estimated monthly cost, how much I'm costing. And it's gonna say, hey, you're costing approximately $625 a month. Not bad, right? So cool. But let's say I wanna get it in a table. Please report it in a table format, right? This is where my GitHub Copilot will do the trick and give this information in a table so you can share with your peers, or even further, you can basically generate a document by GitHub capabilities to ship them out, right? So it says, hey, below is a comprehensive table that you have, which we have resource group name, resource type, SKU and tier, and estimated monthly cost that I do have based on the resource group, right? So I wonder which one is my most expensive one. I do have a app service plan here, which I'm running my RAG application. $250. Search service, AI search, right? It's not cheap. If you're dealing with AI, you gotta pay some price for it. Cool. I got my monthly cost in a matter of a couple minutes. So if we jump into developer and DevOps perspective, cloud perspective, let's say we have an application, or we're going to create an application for a personal project or something else. I want this to do the following, which is, I'm going to clear, I'm going to open a new session here. My new prompt, new project is create a basic web application in .NET, printing welcome to Khan's session at Global Azure Bootcamp 2025, and deploy it to Azure Web App. First, make sure to create a new web app in cons CC resource group in sandbox 3 subscription, right? What I'm gonna do is follow the naming convention of resource type, right? Con, and we're gonna do region code, and we're gonna do index, right? So I want it to create the resources based on this naming convention that I do have. Okay, so let me open up my portal here. I should have opened up beforehand, but oh my god. You got okay. Yeah, security is its finest. Come on. Perfect. Thank you. So we're in the Azure. I'm gonna go to app services, right? These are my app services, which I'm gonna filter out by my name. So I do have 2 web app services right now. I need the third one. Okay, I do have this one working. God forbids if a demo doesn't work, I'll show you guys that one. Right, it's my backup just in case. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump into my MCP and we're gonna fire it up and see what magics can it do. I'm gonna say always allow, so we won't have to approve it all each time, hopefully. So it's say, hey, okay, let's create this .NET application by installing, well, let's checking the .NET version first to make sure you have the tool. Right. In the meantime, I do have my terminal on the left side, which the commands are getting run in here automatically by my agent. So here it's saying, hey, okay, I'm gonna create a new application. It's gonna create this directory, go in there, and it's gonna create this application by running this. So on the left panel, if I do this, maybe, right? So it says, okay, I have successfully created this .NET Core web application using .NET 8. Now it's editing it, the index HTML file to have my print, right? So here on this side, it's doing its magic. And now I'm gonna go into that and build my application locally, right? Just approving the stuff. And it says, hey, there was an issue with the directory path. Let me try this. So it can basically, my GitHub Copilot agent can basically determine the terminal issues, detect them, and try to fix them. Instead of you copy or paste it there, it does everything, right? That's the beauty of the agents. So now it cannot find directory, which I'm not touching, right? Normally it should be very simple. Okay, right now it says it sees the correct structure, and now trying to build the application, which is succeeded. On the left side, you can see it succeeded. I'm gonna keep my changes here. So it says, great, I do have it. Let me publish this application. It says run this yourself for some reason, which I will obey, no worries. Right? So I will say run it yourself. I want it to obey me, right? I'm the boss here. It says, okay, let me run it. So now it's running the application, right? You can see it is running on localhost 5031. If I try to open it, my application is running in my local right now. Localhost, right? Welcome to my session again. So let it wait. Let's wait for it to determine the application is running. Sometimes it may take a couple minutes. No, it has a failure here. Failed to determine the HTTP port. Redirect. Come on. Let's go. Okay, it's taking a bit more time than expected. What I'll do is I'll stop it. If it stops, imagine it just destroys my whole environment. Takes over the place. Would be fun. Come on. Okay, paused. My app is running. Go ahead with the Azure infra creation. Right? It's gonna get the best practices. Let's do it. I'll help you create the Azure infrastructure. It's gonna follow this naming standard. It's gonna log in first, right? Okay, log in, no worries. To make sure it has my privileges to do it, right? It's because it's using my identity. So here in my terminal, it's asking for my default subscription that I want to use, which I want to go with the 7, right? So now once I insert the subscription, it's working for the further details. It says it's logged in. It's going to run this query. If we have this resource group, so it found 2 resource groups. It says, okay, I found this con-cc sandbox-rg resource group. Let's create the app service. As I mentioned, as you guys can see, this is running Azure CLI commands because MCP Server doesn't directly support Azure Web Apps as of now, for now. So, but it supports CLI, so it can detect the right CLI command to deploy your app service, right? It says, okay, I created the plan. Now let me create the web app, right? It's going to create the web app with the .NET Core 8 supported. So here you can see we have an error. .NET Core 8 is not supported, which it made a mistake in the Azure CLI. So it solved the issue and it's going to resolve itself. It's going to say, okay, let me see like what's up, why it's not supported, what is supported. Then it basically listed the runtime supported versions and the languages here, all right, which it made a typo at the beginning. So now it fixed itself with the correct name. Now it's creating the web app. Once it's created, we're going to take a look if it's telling the truth or not. By the way, if you don't have privileges to Azure environments, like RBAC roles, necessary RBAC roles, you won't be able to do this. This is acting as me in the Azure, right? So let's go to Azure side of things. If I refresh this, it's not created yet. It might take a minute or two. Great. It said I created this. Let's check it out. If I refresh it, there we go. It basically created appcon cc01, which aligns with my naming. Cool. But if I click on the URL, I shouldn't be seeing any application because we didn't deploy our application yet, right? It's just going to show me it's running. but there's no content in it. So what I'm gonna do is here, okay, you ask for me to create it, then publish your application. Let me actually publish your application to the web app, right? So it's gonna publish my application to local folder first. Now you can see it made a mistake again, but it saw the issue. Right now, fixing it. By the way, if you don't wanna spend time with these issues, you can just at the beginning tell, hey, this is my working directory, this is where you work, this is where my application is, so it won't basically need to run these and look around for the application, right? That's the reason we didn't indicate any instructions, but the best practice is always have some instructions for your agents so they would know your environment as a prerequisite in advance. So we do have some errors here, which it saw the errors saying deploying the app, run this command, run the commands. I'm not sure if it's bug or something from my computer, but there should be run button. Sometimes it doesn't appear here. So what I do usually here is, anyways, let it run. Right? I just don't want to copy and run it. I want my Copilot to be interactive with it. So it's deploying the application right now. Here it's getting the site credentials, starting the zip deployment to my web application, giving me the status and logs. Perfect. So now my application is deployed as far as I can see from the logs, right? And it says, okay, it's deployed. Let's check it out. So if I refresh it, it might take a couple seconds to reflect here. But there we go. Our application is basically deployed to our web app automatically with the agent, right? Perfect. So let's do some other operations, see what's up. One of the other resources that is supported is log analytics, right? It's very crucial resource for site reliability or DevOps engineers to see what's going on with your applications. If you want to check check the logs, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, check if the web app is connected to log analytics. If not, create a log analytics and attach the web app's diagnostic settings, right? Here, what I'm going to do is in my web app, the diagnostic settings, I don't have any, right? Because I didn't indicate to create a diagnostic settings at the beginning. And so that means my web app doesn't log anything to my log analytic workspace. What I'm going to do is I want this to do the operation. Here you can see it's using one reference, which is generation instructions. So basically whatever you have in this file, it's your instructions for your Copilot. So you can give custom instructions as well. Here it's checking the web app, if web app is connected. So now it's going to run this list CLI command to list out the workspaces. And it says, if it can say, I can see that you already have log analytics here. Please create this, this and that. So run the command, right? So I don't see the run button. Come on. Oh, it's just giving me the command, which I'm gonna run myself. There's indicator. Done. Oops, it's fine. So we're gonna skip the log analytics. I'm gonna go to another one, which is related to storage account here, actually. So I do have this storage account in my Azure, right? which I can see what's happening. Go to storage account, which I can see I do have a couple containers, a couple blobs, this and that. What I want to do is I want to get the details of the storage account. What do I have really without me bouncing between the settings of the storage account? So it's going to query the storage account with the MCP server, hopefully. So here you can see it's using the MCP server storage account list tool directly. If I expand this, I will see what the input is. So before I mentioned, if you're not a technical guy, you can still understand this because this is a clear schema, right, that you can understand most of it. And it wants to list my subscriptions to make sure which subscription this storage account is in. And it says, okay, I found it. It's looks like subscription sandbox 3 is referred before. Then it's gonna look for that storage account here, which found it. Now it's gonna basically run the extension.azure to get the details of the specific storage account. And now it's gonna query the resource group that storage account belongs to, and so it can retrieve more information about it, right? It cannot directly go to the storage account. There's a layers. So here you can see storage account details, configurations with the configurations, security settings with the endpoints, and additional information. So what I want to do next is I want to see if my storage account is secure enough, right? Inspect my storage account if there are any vulnerabilities and give me the report in a table. I want to see what's up with my storage account security, right? Okay, it says, let me inspect it. So this is a good example because I think most of you guys had a project where when you first begin the project, you need to assess the environment to see what is happening, what are the vulnerabilities to remediate, right? This is where MCP servers can just speed up the process, and report generation can be way much better instead of you spending days, even weeks as an engineering team to skim through the whole environment, right? Where you would have a couple agents skim through the environment and generates reports for you, so you can remediate those. Even you can get help from here. So I'm just running the MCP server. It needs to query my resource group graph for resources. And then it says, okay, I analyze your storage account, and here's the report, right? It says your network firewall has a high risk because it doesn't basically restrict anything. It's allowing everything, right? As you guys can see, I do have a public access. Blob public access is disabled. HTTP secure transfer is enabled, and bunch others. So we have assessed my storage account with details in a matter of minutes with the MCP server. Look, right. So lastly, the last is now inspect my sandbox 3 environment and let me know if there are any non-used resources for the last month that is costing us money, right? Because you guys, I can see Alex is, yeah, finally, because your managers, your C-levels, they're like, hey, we're spending a lot. Let's determine what we can cut from the resources, right? So I wonder, like, what's up? Which resources are not being used and costing us money? Because for me, in order to do this, I need to go to the log analytics, write some query to gather retrieve the information, which is costing how much, which is not being used for a month, right? It's a bit of a work for me with my skills. But let's see if the MCP server will give the information. So it says, okay, I identify your subscription. Let's list the groups first to see which groups you have. It says you have 27 resource groups. Let me identify the potential unused resources. Right now, it's querying my resource groups, right? Like from virtual machines to app services, storage accounts. And it says, I see there was an issue with the query. So it's going to retry it with some different approach. So it says I have identified several resources. It's right now focusing on virtual machines, which are one of the most cost consuming, money consuming. So it says, okay, I found 8 virtual machines in this subscription, with 6 of them currently deallocated, which is shut down, and 2 of them are running, right? It's giving me the list, and it's basically saying, hey, it gave me the storage accounts as well, and gave me the recommendation saying, hey, these are your opportunities, man. And recommendations are listing through as well, which I would probably spend a couple hours to retrieve all these detailed informations. And yeah, that's your MCP server in action with your GitHub Copilot Agent mode. So if we jump back to the slide real quick before the Q&A session, I want to touch base on the future of AI-driven cloud and DevOps operations, right? As we saw, I have done a worth of days as a DevOps and cloud guy in a matter of 10-15 minutes. From my perspective, I don't believe AI will replace us. As I always mention, I believe AI will replace human beings that are not integrated into AI itself. But as we did, if you get integrated into AI, or if you integrate AI into your workspace, you can speed up stuff, and you can basically get more advanced, get more work done with the AI-driven operations. Please take a picture of these resources, which I used. They are very beneficial. I would recommend taking a look at them. Okay. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Q&A. If you guys have any questions, please feel free. Yes, please. Amazing. Thank you. So are there any list of resources, or all the resources can be created using this? Yes, because it supports Azure CLI, right? So you can, we used a lot of Azure CLI when creating the web app, because MCP Server doesn't support web app right now, but you can basically do everything in terms of Azure environments. Amazing. Tamil? First of all, great presentation. Second of all, I didn't know we were this rich. The costs are crazy. I didn't know we got this much money. Man, it's one of my subscriptions. Just telling you, I'm playing around a lot. I'm just living. Oh man, as I mentioned, if you're interested in that, you gotta pay some price for it. Very interesting use cases, especially since even a FinOps analysis for me takes pages. I have like 3 build reports and everything else, and to do the analysis, right? And a lot of times there's things that you can do easier with using PowerShell or correct. So, but you always have to go and look things up, right? Because who remembers all the functions? Absolutely. This is such an easy way of actually integrating your workflows slowly, or even just learning them out, right? Yep. For the BC 104 the whole for example, you have to know all the commands. But this is just even from a studying perspective, great use case. Absolutely. Thank you.
Was also amazed to see the cost. Like this is like doing too much. But I have a question on the use case for the MCP server. So Azure MCP server, I know it's I don't know if it's supported in all the areas, but is it fully supported on the GitHub code spaces, or there are some limitations?
Code spaces?
I know it has some limitations, but what about this?
To be honest, I didn't try it in the code spaces, but I don't know. I cannot tell, but it works in VS Code. So I assume if you have your VS Code code spaces should be supported, but you gotta try. I cannot. Yeah, I didn't try it.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you are.
the MCP Servers. It's pretty open. If anyone has access to it, no, I'm not allowed to.
Yeah, you're fine. It's just me listening. It's my normal listening, coming from my dad in heritage.
So if anyone gets access to your computer, like they can just open your VS Code, they can literally run commands and get all this information, or even change certain things on your Azure. This thing can just run the agents and all of that. So I think that's just my concern. That's my question. Is there any security or any authentication that you have to put in first before you have access to the agents that you have access to, like your MCP server and all these kind of things?
Yep. So to summarize the question, like if someone just goes into your computer, can run the VS Code, is there any security guardrail that you can put in place, right? Because if they go in and run, they can do anything. First thing first, RBAC, right? RBAC roles in Azure Enter ID. You shouldn't have owner. That's my MMARC. That's why I'm able to do everything. But you should have least privilege access. That's the first guardrail, right? So you should, in the perfect DevOps practices, no one should have access to create resources on Azure. It should go through some sort of IIC tool through the pipelines. That's a perfect world, but we're not perfect. First, you need to list privilege access. The second thing, that's a good question actually, because if I want to create on Azure portal, as we saw, I do have MFA, right? In here, what's going to happen is I'm trying to think, because it logs in with Azure login. Tamir, are you having a word on there?
Yeah, you know the timeout for Azure login?
Is that a question?
No, it's a fact. I think it's like a 60-minute timeout. So I think you have to relog again. Like you have to run yeah, so you have to run easy login. So the first thing you can do, type in easy login. I think partial is whatever something else, but then that goes creates a request, gives your token, and authenticates you into the portal. And then you are focused as the owner doing whatever you can, right? All that access to whatever you want. But if you let idle out, I think the standard idle is 60 minutes or an hour. And then after that, you have to be authenticated again. So as long as that's in the release and you have this privilege and MFA on top, your risk tolerance is right?
And I think Alex, our friend from Microsoft, have a word on it.
Somebody gets access to the computer, you can run all of that with the schema.
Oh, that's another thing. It should, yeah, like
It's all connected to your credentials and functions and CLI. You're logged in there and I can do everything you need to see there. You don't have it, then just
Like anyone can have access to, but now with the agents, you kind of just speak to literally anybody. Like I think you have to have any kind of knowledge. Like with the CLI, I'll have to have their knowledge. And I have 60 minutes now to have a computer. That's like I think 60 minutes they're valued.
So if you want to deep dive into security in Enter ID, you can basically block a lot of stuff. You can put conditional access policy saying, hey, there is no operation going into our tenants from outside of these IPs. You can just give the Azure DevOps IPs. Nothing else is happening. Or you put another conditional access policies, right? It's a bit more of a security side of things, but I think in a nutshell, you shouldn't give your laptop or if someone have access to your laptop, at the end they can do anything. Cool. No problem. Alex, yeah.
I don't know if we have time, but one quick question I want to ask, and I don't know the answer. How would you compare MCP to function calling in AI?
Function call. Okay. That's a good question, right? Okay.
You don't have to answer now.
Yeah. Let's think about it. I never thought about it.
I'm actually working on the slide.
Okay, cool. That's a good
Versus function calling.
function calling versus MCP, right? Okay, let's think about it and we're gonna revisit.
The MCP is standard way to call different APIs or something like this, but the function calling to determine and the first step which function to call, and at the end you have to call this function.
Yeah.
That's what MCP does. It determines what API, what MCP server function, because you described it. So the reason is when I wrote MCP servers, the way of writing the server is very similar to how you used to write the function.
Okay.
Give it the description, what does this function do, what parameters it's very similar. It's a
I-
standard.
I think before going to Alex, I think the main difference is with the function calling, you got to be more developer based. Here, you don't have to have developer based, right? It just we have done everything with prompting, but I'm sure there should be more differences. I do have a couple questions. Yes.
The main difference between function calling and MCP is just concept. Function calling was focused on developers, what they did is they just created out of the protocol that more widely used by others, making these sort of tools more accessible to more people. That's the only difference. But you're right, basically it's almost.
Perfect. Any other questions? Yes.
And the demo. So as you find the demo, we can build web app or database storage, but there are standard pipeline. There are functions that to build this flow pipeline, building the database or storage accounts. How can we integrate this or there?
I'm gonna do another session. I'm working on a project where I'm building up an DevOps MCP server all at once. You can have, so there are different MCP servers, MCP server for Azure DevOps, for Terraform, for GitHub. You can basically have them here and work collaboratively, right? That's one. You can build your own DevOps single server that has different tools from Azure DevOps to Terraform. So you can go with that. So you can say, hey, I tried it. I do have this web app, import that configuration into my Terraform code. MCP server does it. People are building. So in those resources, if you take a look, there are MCP server repositories where one of them is basically specific to DevOps MCP servers. A lot of good servers, man. They have databases, GitHub, normal GitHub, Azure DevOps, Terraform, Slack, Grafana, Kubernetes, bunch of. Any other questions before we wrap it up? This one? The slide, I'll connect with Hassan if there's a way to share it. Sure, why not? And okay, and this was Contrigate. Thank you for joining me today.